This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello, wherever you are in the world and whatever time it is where you're listening, you're very welcome, and I am beyond privileged to be bringing you my very first SmackDown review as part of the WWE podcast. My name's Amanda, and I have done a few shows with Matt, and he has very kindly given me the opportunity to take over from the fantastic Michael Ritter to host the SmackDown review. Before we start today, I want to give a massive shout out to Michael Ritter. I'm sure he is listening somewhere today. I listened to him for absolutely ages. I think I've probably caught the majority of his shows over the number that he did, and I think he was excellent. I hope I can deliver as good quality podcast as what he did. And as he said last week in his farewell episode, I hope I can learn to build my skills as he did. But massive shout out to him. Thank you for giving us the SmackDown review for as long as you did. And again, thanks to Matt for the opportunity for me to come and speak into your ears on a weekly basis. So, with all that being said, you are most welcome, and thank you for downloading us today. This is a review of SmackDown, aired on the 28th of June 2024 from Madison Square Garden in New York, the world's most famous arena, as they mentioned on commentary about 6,000 times throughout this episode, so you could not possibly have missed where we were coming from today. So, let's get things started. So, we started off the episode with a recap of last week's events with the new Bloodline, or Bloodline Light, or the Bloodline Tribute Act, wherever you fall in the spectrum of liking or disliking the new iteration of the Bloodline. We were reminded that Heyman said to Solo he isn't meant to handle Cody, and this is where Solo broke the news that Roman isn't coming back, and Heyman looks like his puppy has been drowned at this. We saw Solo versus Cody from last week with the interfering Tongans and the introduction of Jacob Fatu, who looks absolutely brutal. An absolute beast. I really like the new production elements since the Triple H era has really taken effect. The camera work makes them all look very dangerous in this recap. It's got, I think, what they would call in the business sepia tones or brown tones with sort of grainy lines across some of the broadcast here. And it just adds to the atmosphere and makes them all look kind of mean and nasty. So as we start off the actual episode, we see Solo and the Tongans arrive, and they meet Heyman, who his first question is, "Where is Jacob?" And it has to be said here, they've really gone for this, making Heyman look kind of tired, very stressed. He's unshaven. He's still wearing his nice, expensive suit and tie, etc. But he just looks a little bit rough. They head straight down to the arena, and the crowd immediately starts up the "We want Roman" chants. And this is just an amazing reimagining of the Roman Reigns character, coming full circle. When he comes back, because I don't believe Solo, when he comes back, he is totally going to be a babyface, and it is going to be absolutely awesome. As the Bloodline come through the curtain, the big screen shows Cody, Randy, and RKO arriving, looking pretty mad and hocked up, and they head straight down to the ring. We get a short face-off, and then we get a brawl. Bit of a preview of the match at Money in the Bank. We see multiple spots from this 3-on-3. Notably, KO does one of his crazy spots from the audience, like a stairwell through a table, whilst Randy and Cody then clear the ring. At this point, Nick Aldis, or for our UK listeners, Oblivion the Gladiator. For those of you who are not in the UK, we had our own version of Gladiators here in the UK. We've been through 3 versions of it now. We had the original one in the 90s. We then had the reimagining on Sky TV, which was in the early 2000s, and we have a new version now. Nick Aldis played the character Oblivion the Gladiator in the middle version in the early 2000s, and whenever I see him, that's my first thought that comes into my head. I'll post you up a picture of him on my X feed, formerly known as Twitter, which I have set up especially so we can have some wrestling chat on this podcast, and that is at Amanda SD Pod. Give me a follow. We'll interact. We'll talk wrestling. We'll have some banter. So, Nick Aldis comes down to the ring. He has security. He's trying to calm things down. Security surrounds the ring. Honestly, they must have used every bit of local talent or every member of the performance centre. He sends them into the ring. They get properly beaten up. They clear the ring of the quote-unquote security people. They have mics in their hands at this point. KO says they don't want to wait for Money in the Bank. And Randy says they are putting the Bloodline down for good at Money in the Bank. And Cody says the Bloodline see 3 victims in the ring, but he sees it as 3 of the most dangerous men in the planet. It goes on to list some of their achievements. Cody says he's mad because he should be defending his title, not redealing with the Bloodline, even though this is a new iteration of the Bloodline. Nick Aldis then turns back up with the local police. Cody says he doesn't see the head of the table in Solo, he just sees a seat filler. Ouch. That's quite brutal, but a great opening to the show. The 3 guys there, KO, Randy, and Cody, they leave the ring. They don't want any part of the NYPD. I don't have any idea if these are actual real NYPD or if they're more people from the local talent or performance centre. They look the part to me, and they look like American cops, so who knows. But a really good and another very high octane start to this episode of SmackDown. So as we come back from the commercial, the police are escorting the 3 guys backstage, and Kayla Braxton, whose last night it was tonight on WWE, and she basically got to say one line where she was trying to find out from Nick Aldis, hey, what's going on, what's happening. That was it for her, so I guess she's off to pastures new, and all the best to her. She's been, I think, great. He says basically no comment, he can't deal with this. They get in a car and they leave. So that wraps that up. We then move on to our first match action of the evening, starting with the Money in the Bank qualifying match. This is with Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, and Jade Cargill. We got a huge pop for Tiffany. It's supposed to be a heel gimmick, but she seems to be quite over with the crowd. Corey and Wade reference her attempt to align with Nia Jax, so assuming that this is reminding us that Nia Jax might put in an appearance. Candice comes out, meh reaction to me. I didn't hear much for her, and then Jade comes out, and the crowd seem very into her. Her entrance is cool. And Corey says this is make or break for Jade, which seems kind of harsh, as it's she's still very early days into her WWE career, and yes, her match Clash was botchy to say the least, but make or break probably a bit much at this point. So we kick off the match. Candice LeRae and Tiffany work together to attack Jade. They get some good offense in, but then Jade turns the tables, clears house with some good clean moves. I felt like she was keeping it fairly simple and reasonably grounded. But I guess they maybe need to look at, reinvigorating her confidence a little bit following the events of the notoriously botchy match. But she did good here. We then see Nia heading to the ring, Bianca following suit. They don't touch anyone. They set up camp on either side of the ring. And we get some nice near falls from all of the ladies. Jade rallies, but is sent over the top by Tiffany. Indy shows back up. And a game of tag ensues as Indy shows up and Bianca at ringside. Tiff then pulls out the prettiest moonsault ever and covers Candice for the win. Nia looks delighted at this. I really like Tiffany Stratton. I think she's awesome. She's very over. I was a little bit worried that her character is quite similar to Chelsea Green, but I think there's enough difference in there. I really like her, and I see her going a long way. She's got an excellent moveset. She's really athletic. She seems able to talk. As I said, she's over. So I think she's going to be great. I think there's a really strong chance that she may win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it would be awesome for her to do so. It fits with her character really nicely. And with the alliance with Nia as well, I think that makes them quite dangerous potentially as a tag team going forward. I'm really liking these fatal three-way triple threat. My apologies, triple threat Money in the Bank qualifying matches. I feel like I'm a lot more invested and a lot more interested this year than I have been in previous years. So I like how this has been done. We then flip to another backstage segment. So we have Nick Aldis and Meechin. She wants a match. She's not getting a match right now. Street Profits come in with B-Fab. They want a Bloodline match. This isn't happening tonight because they're going to have a ceremony, which confirms to us that the acknowledgement ceremony is still going to go on as the quote-unquote main event. Pretty Deadly return. Oh, I love Pretty Deadly, and that's not just because I'm British. I just think they're fun. They're camp. They're just brilliant. I think they're great. So they do a skit about Pretty Deadly, the musical, and the Street Profits. They come back and say about beating them down. They actually make a really funny comment about what you're doing, making fake crowd noises like the Thunderdome era. I just thought that was a classy comment. That was quite funny. So it looks like we have a match setting up, and it's confirmed later in the night that we do have a match next week between Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits, which should be good. So we then go into a review of the lead up to the next match, which is LA Knight, Logan Paul versus Santos Escobar. And the commentary team remind us that this is very personal. The entrances, Santos Escobar receives a typically Healy reception. LA Knight, a massive pop, as he always does. And then before we have Logan Paul's entrance, we have Heyman and Solo talking. What the hell's going on tonight? Solo says that Jacob Fatu isn't here, and the ceremony is to make Heyman Solo's wise man. We hear more "We want Roman" chants from the crowd, and then we cut back to the ring. Logan Paul makes his entrance again, very Healy, and he's got a mic, and he cuts a promo bringing up Madison Square Garden's greatest champions, greatest victories, etc. And he has, and you're going to have to bear with me here, guys, I'm not from the US and I don't follow basketball. He has a guy called Tyrese with him from Indianapolis. And Wade thankfully explains that the Pacers beat the Knicks, hence the booing from the crowd. So they come down to the ring together. LA Knight comes out very hot, starts beating down Santos and Paul, and then the heels team up briefly and start to beat down LA Knight. Predictably, Logan turns on Santos, goes back to Knight, and we have some back and forth here. Very impressive. Logan Paul, he's not my cup of tea. I don't think he's really for me, particularly, but he is very, very good. He's very athletic, and as I know, Matt and many other commentators and podcasters have said, he's taken to the business like a duck to water. He's very good. So Logan is very impressive. He has Knight, but Santos comes from nowhere, takes them outside, and a brilliant move from Santos from the top rope. We get more near falls, and the action is phenomenal. Really, really good match. Knight takes a belly to back from the top rope, again amazing, followed by a swanton from Paul into a near fall, but Knight reverses that. Tyrese gets the brass knucks from one of Logan Paul's lackeys in the crowd, but he is intercepted before he can pass the knucks over to Paul. Knight wins off a countered roll-up, and it was an awesome match, really good. After the match, we get a face-off between Tyrese and Jalen. This point descends slightly into pantomime booing, because obviously these are two basketball team players who have a serious rivalry. No blows are thrown here, but a lot of booing and a lot of chopsing off at each other. And then at the end, Knight and Jalen stand tall. Really fun match. Another great qualifier. Very much looking forward to seeing LA Knight in the Money in the Bank match. We then go backstage. We have Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, basically reminding us that Baron won the Money in the Bank. However, had one of those very rare unicorn events where he actually fails in his cash-in. At that point, Carmelo shows up, bragging, talking about his new shirt that he's going to get made. He's a very confident young man. I haven't really warmed to him yet. I'm not sure what his character is meant to be, apart from an ego, and if that's what it is, then that's great. But yeah, just a little backstage segment. We move on. Bloodline is the action is coming thick and fast tonight. We've got a Money in the Bank qualifying match. This one is between Blair Davenport, who they said is from New Zealand, which is my bad. I thought she was British. She certainly seems to have a British accent. So maybe she's come via elsewhere. But Blair Davenport from New Zealand is introduced as such. Quite a muted reaction. Again, she's quite a new member of the roster, so I guess the crowd and us at home are still feeling our way with her. Indy's already in the ring at this point. I think that speaks volumes about where WWE see her at the moment. It's never a good sign if you don't get your own entrance, I think. And then we get Naomi, and her entrance is the usual, very high energy. Wade sells the beef between Naomi and Blair. I can't really say that I noticed this very much. He references that it's been on X as well and on social media. But hey, that's great. They're obviously just trying to build a bit of a feud in a feud here. So we have Naomi's entrance, and Naomi starts off in control. We come off. We have a brutal move off the apron by Blair. She, I think, is shaping up to be a very good heel. She's got quite a brutal moveset. And Naomi, as always, displays some very good moves. We go around in Indies in control. And then Jade shows up as payback for the match earlier in the night, I guess, when Jade came down to the ring. Sorry, when Indy came down to the ring to distract Jade. Jade beats her up and throws her back in the ring for Naomi to get the cover eventually and win. So backstage we have Byron Sachs talking to DIY about their potential tag team championship opportunity. Theory appears, and DIY, led by Johnny Gargano, continue to try and tell him that Grayson Waller is using him. Theory is having none of this, calling Grayson Waller his best friend, etc. And from nowhere, DIY are attacked by Grayson Waller from behind. So I think just a little teaser, and demonstrating to us what's coming up next. So then we have the Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. So the Bloodline come to the ring, and Heyman starts to do his introduction, but is cut off by Solo. And Solo brings out Jacob Fatu as his enforcer. Solo lied. Jacob Fatu is here. Shock! He says the old Roman lines of Madison Square Gardens, acknowledge me. And there's just a cacophony of booing. There's a few people there throwing up the ones, but in the most part, seems to me, a lot of booing. Heyman looks shocked. I don't know why he looks shocked. You could have predicted that Solo would pull something like this. But one by one, Solo makes his way first to each of the Tongans, then to Jacob Fatu, asking for them to acknowledge him. And they all say that they love him and that they acknowledge him. And then Solo turns to Heyman, and out of a bag they pull Roman's beads. When I saw that black bag, was either Jake the Snake or Roman's beads. It was only going to be one of those two things, and it was unlikely to be a snake, let's be honest. So they pull out Roman's red beads that he always wore down to the ring and back on his big matches. Paul again is shocked. Will he put them on Solo? Won't he? So the plan is, I guess, Solo hands these beads to Heyman, and Heyman is supposed to put the beads onto Solo and acknowledge him as the tribal chief. He will not, it turns out. So he sells us a bit of a pup. He takes the beads. He starts off saying, Solo, I love you, and I acknowledge, and then dramatic pause. I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief. And then basically all hell breaks loose. So Solo spikes Heyman. Jacob Fatu goes up to the top rope and drops on Heyman. And then the Tongans take Heyman outside of the ring and smash him through the announce desk. Solo's then anointed, I guess you could say, by Jacob Fatu, so he ends up wearing the beads anyway. And Paul Heyman is absolutely destroyed ringside and doesn't move. And kudos to Paul Heyman here. I mean, he is not a wrestler. And he is a man of a certain age. I mean, he's not as old as Vince was occasionally when he was getting stunners and etc. From Stone Cold, but still, he is a man of a certain age, and he has just taken some pretty massive bumps. Spike from Solo, the move from Jacob Fatu from the top rope, and then going through the announce table. I mean, obviously they are very careful with him, but still, in real life, that's gotta hurt. And he sells it good, and he is down and he is out, and we are to believe that he is, obviously completely destroyed. So Solo is anointed as the new tribal chief, the new head of the table. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting at the end here, and I keep pausing it to see how much is left, because I obviously record this show overnight and get up early in the morning and watch it, and I'm thinking this is getting really close to the end. I'm waiting for Roman's music to hit, because I think this has got to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and this is, if anything, is going to bring Roman out. It's this. And on Twitter /X beforehand, all the talk was that there was a big return rumoured, but Roman doesn't come. Where is Roman? What is going on? So Heyman is left decimated on the floor. The new Bloodline Light, Bloodline Tribute Act, I don't think we can call them that anymore. They are pretty kick-ass, and they are mean people. So I think we just call them the new Bloodline 2.0. Standing tall, put the ones up. Nothing is stopping them, it appears. And there's no Roman. There is no Jimmy. There is no Jay. I thought maybe we wouldn't get Roman, but if we didn't get Roman, surely we'd get a reunited somehow, Jimmy or Jay or both, to come down, because everyone loves Heyman, right? I mean, especially in his current guise of this bullied and brutalized man who, apparently just wants his Roman back, but nothing. And that is how we end the show. A little bit shocked, but holy wow. I mean, this is building like we've not seen for a long time. Beautiful, slow build, storytelling, gradually bringing in these extra characters, not debuting people signed, for example, Jacob Fatu, etc., immediately waiting for the right time in the story to bring them in to make it believable, and to really aid the storytelling. I think it's great. We're setting up for a red hot return here when Roman finally does come, with Jimmy, with Jay, and then also we've got The Rock still to come. I mean, this is just, it's just brilliant, and it's just phenomenal storytelling, and all of the kudos for that to Triple H and the new creative team, because I don't think we would have necessarily have seen this kind of thing under the Vince era. So it was a good ending, if not slightly shocking, actually. So all in all, I think an excellent edition of SmackDown. I thoroughly enjoyed it. A brilliant one to have, I think, as my first to review. As I said before, I feel very lucky to be in the position. I'd love to know what you guys think. So please, if you want to, interact via X. As I said, my handle there is at Amanda SD Pod. Give me a follow, and we can have some chat about the brilliant product at the moment. It's all very exciting. We continue the build to Money in the Bank. One other thing that I did want to mention was the kind of weird and slightly awkward interaction between Bayley and Naomi backstage. I think these guys are friends in real life, which makes it even more strange that the interaction felt a little bit weird. But it felt a bit like some forced banter. So basically, Bayley said to Naomi, you need to sort this out. You need to win the qualifying Money in the Bank. And Naomi says, well, if I do and I win Money in the Bank, I'm going to have to cash in on you. And Bayley says, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, basically. There's nothing wrong in the content of that. It just felt a bit weird, and it felt slightly forced bantery. And I think I'm not really sure that WWE are particularly sure what to do with Bayley and how to make the best use of her, which is a shame, because I have a lot of time for Bayley, especially in this role model character. I wasn't such a fan when she was the hugger Bayley, but this version of her I really, really like, and I would like to see her get a bit more to get her teeth stuck into. Good that she was at least featured, in inverted commas. It was hardly featured, but she was on the show. She was on TV. But I'm not sure what the point was really of that very brief and quite weird and uncomfortable interaction. So I just wanted to mention that. I didn't have it in my official rundown because it was a bit of a meh, but still. So as I said, thank you very much for having me in your ears on my very first edition of the SmackDown review, the new era, to coin a phrase from Triple H and everyone else after WrestleMania. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've very much enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy some of my takes. And that is it from me this week. I hope to hear from you all on Twitter/X, and we will continue next week where we move to Canada for our pre-Money in the Bank SmackDown Go Home, which should be also awesome. So, thank you very much for listening. Have a safe week and be kind.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.